Hello and welcome to the Accelerator Podcast by Accelerator Coaching. I'm your host Howard Bishop and I've got here with me Ed Miles. First show, we're going to try and see how it goes. We're going to do some scripted stuff, some off the cuff. Hopefully tell you about what we're going to be about in the next few weeks. So the first show, nutrition, and mainly about the Netflix series Game Changers. Have you seen it?
I've not seen it, but I've heard quite a few things about it. I've kind of judged it before actually watching it because I've seen a few other similar documentaries on Netflix. I think one called What the Health, and then there was another one. Can't remember what it's called, but they all seem to follow the same kind of pattern. So I've kind of gotten an idea about it before I watch it.
Yeah, so I agree. I've not seen it, and purposefully not seen it because I wanted to record this first, and then we'll come back and address it later. But we'll talk about a few things with it as we get through the show. So what the Accelerator Podcast is about is really to address important topics that we get asked all the time as trainers on health, fitness, sport, and just healthy lifestyles in general. So we'll try and help this along by getting regular guests and interesting people along that help explain what the topic we're about, but then also get into our train like an athlete mindset. So we use train like an athlete as more of a mantra than anything, and it's a little clever tagline, but we need to enforce on what that means. So what does it mean to you, Ed, like train like an athlete mindset?
Well, it's just about kind of, obviously, if people associate kind of like S&C coaching to elite performers, like athletics, they'll have the S&C coach that trains them in a certain way for them to peak at the right times, etc. But I feel like it's not just exclusive to that kind of that small group. You can kind of apply some of these principles are quite complex that they apply to athletes, but this can be applied in a simplified version to just everyday people. So like if somebody comes to me and says I want to lose weight, there's things I can take away from that I can use from a program that I'd use for somebody who wants to. So like we've had some GB taekwondo fighters, like you can take some stuff out of their programming and apply it to the person who wants to lose weight in the same way, not necessarily the same sessions, but you can kind of follow a similar template to what they were doing to help them lose weight if it's appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think especially with the taekwondo fighters, a lot of theirs is about going up and down in weight, so it helps us achieve that with an everyday customer as well. And I'm sure Ed will back me up, but when we were at university, you learn on athletes because that's the extreme, and then you find out how to apply that to everyday people as well.
But then when you're doing your research for these things, quite a lot of the research is done on untrained people, recreationally trained people, and then obviously there's some on the elite stuff, but you can take stuff out of all of it to then apply it to different training types.
Yeah. So I think Ed's hit the nail on the head there about how it can work for everyone. And for me, really, a train like an athlete mindset means that it's a holistic approach. So you can't train one specific thing and then let something else diminish. And when I did my strength and conditioning course, they said to me, what is sport or what is fitness, and we had to label it, and we started with like 5 things that are what you get on the textbook: flexibility and speed and strength, and then we ended up with about 50 things that make an athlete: nutrition, supplementation, injury prevention, injury rehab, massage, anything that comes down that line, and then also physical as well as mental health. So mental health is a big thing, which we will come to on a certain week. But realistically, it's creating a holistic approach, and what is good for one person should be good for everyone. So that doesn't mean that everybody's not different. You have to train everybody differently, but you can create general assumptions on people and then adjust as you go along.
It's more of like a sliding scale.
Yeah, 100%.
So you can have, so obviously, you can have a session. Let's use a session as an example. So you can have a session planned out for your average Joe wants to lose a bit of fat, gain a bit of muscle. That's their session. A bit of like weights, bit of cardio, but then you could have an athlete who's a professional come to you, and you could then obviously slide it towards the elite side, advance it in ways that are necessary using the same kind of structure, the same maybe base exercises, and that'll still be relevant to them. But then again, you could get somebody who's coming with a severe like rehab program, so somebody who's got like a really severe injury, so you need to kind of we'll obviously need to work to build that same strength, so you can use some of those hypertrophy exercises but regress them right but down to their basic form.
Yeah,
maybe even working in a shorter range just to build up that injured area, and then obviously as they progress you can kind of slide it along as well.
Yeah,
so it's more of a sliding thing
small
rather
movements going into big movements.
Yeah, exactly. So there's one client I can think of off the top of my head, in particular, she's a woman. She came to us, trained kind of like your typical training for a while, got in quite good shape, lost weight, leaned up, got stronger, etc. But then like everybody reaches that plateau at some point or another, and it's all about kind of finding new ways to get through that plateau, get back on the up again. And so we introduced like kind of Olympic weightlifting, because obviously mega mobile, good shoulder range, good hip range, etc. And she was quite naturally gifted at it, so we obviously got quite developed quite quickly. And then so now she's working on that quite a lot. She's in incredible nick, just because obviously it's so taxing on the body.
Yeah.
She's getting really strong all over the place. So yeah, she's
and that's like when a HIIT workout or a cardio workout doesn't quite cut it for her anymore, and a strength workout on its own doesn't quite cut it, so we put those together and put Olympic lifting in to like HIIT workouts per se. So then she's getting a strength, but it's also tiring her out, and that really is why CrossFit works, and CrossFit people like training like sport, and we will cover CrossFit in another episode.
We'll need quite a while to get through that.
Yeah, so we're not going to bash it too much just yet, but we'll come on to it. But that's why it works, because people get tired, it's hard, and it creates all different types of fitness, and it brings that train like an athlete into fruition. The person that Ed's talking about is, she's killed it, and realistically she could go into probably a lifting competition.
So if we focused on that,
and
she's been doing, obviously she's getting a mix of loads of different types of training. At the minute she's kind of just in and out of doing different things still, because that's what she wants to do. She likes getting it mixed up. But if we focus purely on training that, I'm pretty sure we could get her up to compete.
Yeah, and she's quite small, so it's done on age and weight categories, so she could enter at her weight and probably absolutely kill it as well.
In terms of all our client base, strength to size ratio, I think it's probably
it's probably right up there.
She's probably one of the strongest we've got.
Yeah, it's right up there. Yeah, definitely. She's
I think
a little pocket rocket.
If we'd have not included those Olympic movements, I don't think that she'd be as where she is.
No, I agree. Yeah, and then getting people up to that level is what we're all about. And it doesn't. You don't have to do Olympic lifting. You don't have to do running. You don't have to do this one thing. If you want to be good at lots of other things, we can put you into stuff that we can work out. We're trying some of our own events this year for the first time to try and see if we can help people that way and put them into some sort of competition where they feel good, they get a little prize out of it, and they can have a drink at the end and think they've achieved something. So in the hashtag Train Like an Athlete section, this is where normally our guest would talk about how he or she trained like an athlete, or found a way he or she could use their mindset to help adapt to the situation around them. So how did you, Ed, find that you train like an athlete?
I guess as I keep progressing more and more, it kind of, my training's evolved to be kind of like an unorganised kind of me just going to the gym, doing what I see other people doing when I was about 16. But obviously the more I learned, the more I looked into it, I started learning more and more and started building a bit more of organisation, I suppose. That's like the way mainly I do it, cause by learning more, because obviously I've done PT qualification, sports science degree, now I'm doing a master's degree. Each time I've stepped up, I've obviously learnt more and more, which has enabled me to train like an athlete more so than ever. So now obviously the stuff I learn I then apply to myself and to others. So I suppose just stuff like that.
And who are your inspirations to help you along that journey?
Inspirations, I suppose. First inspiration to kind of get into training and stuff was because just watching like rugby players. Obviously, most England rugby players are pretty stacked.
Yeah.
So obviously, by being a fan of them, watching them, I've always thought, right, I need to do that myself.
Yeah, you look at James Haskell in the jungle at the minute. He's in great nick, and he's a PT as well. It inspires young kids to sort of continue on that journey.
Yes, that's kind of what inspired me to start kind of training, to try and put a bit of size on, like most boys and men want to do. And then obviously my kind of idols and inspirations evolved as I went through this kind of learning journey. So obviously the more I knew, the more kind of informed I became. My inspirations became more like academic focused rather than just people who look mint.
Yeah.
So because obviously you've got like people who can be mega stacked, but then when you watch them train, you're like, well, probably could be doing. You could probably be stronger.
Or they're doing something.
Because they're doing something that you think, you look at it now knowing what I know, you're like, well, why are you actually doing
they're
that?
doing something unsafe, or they're doing
exactly.
something that's not really science based. Or
so now kind of my like inspirations and more now, like the guy I read a lot of is Brad Schoenfeld.
Okay.
You probably never heard of him, most people, but he's an academic, done a lot of research on kind of hypertrophy, strength, like kind of just addressing kind of like your bro topics. It's like, you know, addressing some myths and stuff, and I find a lot of what he's written is really interesting. So it's kind of like.
And can you find him on social media?
Yeah, he's on Instagram, Twitter. Some of the stuff on Twitter is a bit more academic focused, so he's probably a bit boring. But then some of the stuff he puts on Instagram is quite easy to understand. So if you want to find out any more information, then give him a follow.
What about somebody more in the public demeanour? Who would you follow that's like puts a bit stuff up there, a bit more public, that's people can go have a look at?
Accelerator Coaching first.
We try and put a lot of our work into our, what we see online, and we put it into our work. We do try and express what new things we see. We try them out. We see if that's good, and we'll go again. So,
what about you? How have you trained like an athlete?
So, over my career, doing different jobs as well as my degree in, so like Ed said, my personal training, strength and conditioning. I find it really hard when I haven't got a goal. So I like to set myself challenge. A biggest driver for me all my life has been my granddad. My granddad was an Olympian. We'll go on to that in another episode, but he was a huge part of my life when it was alive, and then looking back at what he achieved by the time he was my age was absolutely incredible. So I always, if I'm feeling flat or something, I look back to that, and it gives me that training mentality. And things that he did, I've got some of his old training diaries. It's going back to Olympic lifting again, and gymnastics. He did things that were so traditional, but he looked great, and he got a lot of respect in the sporting world for that. Other people I follow towards, I like Jan Lemaire, but like Ed said, Jan's very academic.
Yeah, he's probably one that if you're not kind of academically inclined, that I would follow, because it's kind of his infographics.
His infographics are really good, bite-sized chunks, but you've got to take sometimes with a pinch of salt. He is quite good at debunking theories, but sometimes when you see the best thing, you've got to look at the data as well. So I like him. To
I've
injuries.
just thought of one actually.
Yeah, go on.
There's an Instagram page I follow called Squat University.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Seen that. I find myself watching quite a lot of their videos, because it's that is very. The guy who does it, I can't remember his name, but he's a very knowledgeable guy, and you can tell that he's done his research and he's academic. But then when he puts his videos online, he addresses problems, not just with squats, but like with all kinds of different movements, and he uses like 3D human anatomy thing, and on this digital, and he kind of points out exactly where problems lie and how to fix them and stuff. And that's very easy to understand, even if you don't kind of have a basic knowledge.
And maybe it's a point to say that train like an athlete, it's all science based, but each person is slightly different. So we might plug or ramble something about it, might not suit you, but that's because everybody's different. So we always talk about that, even if you're an injured person or a disabled child or a disabled person, that you're going to do things in your own way. So that if you do things that are based on science, you've still got to find your own way to do it. no matter who you are, and then that goes from professional athletes down to people with injuries or chronic injuries. So no matter who you are, you've got to find your own way to go about it. So the main segment, nutrition, with the program Game Changers, what do you think?
Well, so just a bit of background for anyone who doesn't know what it is or have seen it or anything. It's a documentary that Netflix have recently released. It's looking at plant-based diets, and it's claiming to have real scientific evidence as to why we should all become vegetarian.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
it's getting some traction now as well.
Yeah, a lot
There's
of people are talking about it.
Yeah. It seems to be that people will jump onto things if it's popular. Yeah, definitely. And
being vegetarian is quite
and then with the world being so unsustainable at the minute, it seems like that this way is a sustainable future. Maybe not our future, but young children's future, or whatever it may be. But I think it's popular for that reason, but also then people like a reason to lose weight, which is the biggest thing, and then also find new ways of eating for, number one, cheaper, and number two, easier.
Well,
so to be debated, but we'll talk about a few things and what it means to people in real life and the science behind it. So we both admit we've not seen the series, and I purposely haven't done that because I want to film this and then come back to it later. But
I'm not sure if I'm quite ready to watch it without kind of losing my rag a little bit.
Yeah, I mean
I mentioned earlier that I have seen another one called I think it was What the Health.
What the Health, yeah.
And I was fine. I think it's like an hour and a half. Got to 45 minutes in, and I switched it off because I was so.
Yeah,
bored.
I mean, I was the same with a few of these documentaries. You get lost in it a bit, especially if you're science based like we both are.
Oh, I've just remembered another one as well. It's one called The Magic Pill, which is about the keto diet, and if you watch that, you will come. There is a bit in that documentary that claims that going ketogenic will cure cancer or help cure.
Yeah,
cancer.
I mean, we could go all day about just keto.
There is actually a bit in that.
So we're going to have to come back to keto on its own and maybe talk about a few things that's very popular as well. So what it means to you though is that if you cut meat or meat based or all even vegan, so all animal product based out of your diet, will you lose weight? Yeah, 100%, no questions asked. Me and Ed both agree. If you cut something major out of your diet, you will lose weight.
If you ate only meat and cut all forms of carb out of your diet, you probably would lose weight.
You would lose weight.
I saw something on the Lad Bible, not a credible source, however, that a man ate KFC for a week
and lost weight.
Yeah.
So you've got to have some balance.
We've obviously evolved. We've evolved into
carnivores,
the humans we are now, eating meat from a very, very long time ago.
Yeah.
So like hunting has always been, like a male role. That's been the male role, the hunter.
Yeah.
Gatherers as well. So it has been a combination of the two. We wouldn't have the teeth to break and be able to break down meat if we weren't supposed to.
And the chemicals in our body as well. Yeah.
And now we're obviously that fine tuned now that I know in some cases there's a friend of mine who was ate meat like normal, and then decided to go. Decided to go vegan, and then it led to a lot of health complications due to that big gap of nutrients that comes from meat.
That's the real science that we'll get into about it as well. Is that I know, like some people, like Ronda Rousey, the UFC fighter, she used to do the thing called the warrior diet, which is only raw products. So mainly it's fruit and vegetables, but then she could eat raw meat as well. And I assume she's done that to stay as lean as possible, but then also lose some weight to get down for her fight, which she lost that fight, I believe. But, doing things like that, it is an extreme, and they try to do anything to find an edge. Those athletes.
But then the thing is as well, I think when you've got athletes, this is going to be quite a big, maybe controversial statement. When you've got these athletes who claim to be vegan and vegetarian, who are off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know a guy, a powerlifter, who's plant-based.
And I think one of my friends is really big into wrestling. Obviously, it's not you can say what you want about wrestling, but they're all in good nick and they're all quite athletic. and he always swears that this guy is vegan, and he's a natural wrestler. He's not used drugs, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's for him to be on that vegan diet and to be able to maintain and build, because I think he said that he keeps getting bigger and bigger. It must be so difficult. He's either got a sports science team that's unreal and is literally tracking everything to make sure that everything is getting all the right nutrients, all the right protein and everything. Then if that's the case, then fair play. But otherwise, I think a lot of these people who preach about being vegan have got to where they are via something else.
Yeah, one of my old lecturers at college, Debs, if she's listening, she was vegetarian, or I don't know if she probably still is, and she said she found it really hard to replace the protein that she missed from meat, and she ate a lot of beans, a lot of lentils, to try and combat that. But first of all, is if you don't like that, it's a problem, and number two is that the amount is significantly different, which is what Game Changers really is about, which we're going to go into in a second. But the guy I know, powerlifter, he ultimately he didn't get the size he was. He didn't break his world championship being vegan. He converted to be a vegan. He was doing everything that everybody else does to get to that size, and as particularly powerlifters and bodybuilders, they don't get that size from being veggies and vegans. There's no way, unless they smash synthetic proteins. The science behind it, the main thing about Game Changers is it says you get the nutrients that you need from a plant-based diet that you would get from having meat as well. I completely agree. I don't about you, Ed. You agree? Yeah. You can, but then it's the quantity. So what they show is that the amount of protein you can get from certain foods like broccoli and green vegetables.
The vegetarians love claiming this one.
Yeah. So this is a big one, that per calorie, broccoli has the same amount of protein as steak, but
broccoli had more protein per calorie than steak.
However, though, the amount of broccoli you would have to eat to get your protein allowance every day would be obscene.
It would be like, we're talking fields
of broccoli. Yeah, you're gonna have to. Now, this is going to be controversial either way, whether you agree or you don't agree with us. So please bear that in mind. But if you have, let's say, even though you're counteracting that with an artificial protein source, fair enough, but you cannot eat that amount of broccoli every day and not have some other repercussions. There's 100% that you're going to get some definite stomach problems coming across with that, even if you're used to eating vegetable based diet. That is going to cause you some serious distress to start with, till your body gets used to it. So whether you're willing to go through that distress is your call. What, in our opinion, is that to have a meat-based diet, it makes your life easier.
Yep.
And if you want to cut out meat and be a vegetarian for ethical reasons, we have a couple of customers who are vegetarian for ethical reasons. That's fine, and they also, see good results, and you can get easily amount from cheese as well. But then if you're vegan completely, that causes you more.
My mum always used to
problems.
tell me that to be a vegan, you've got to be creative and talented at cooking. So if you're a picky eater, obviously being a vegan is not going to work.
So this just came to me actually as well, that we had my mum is a chef, for the listeners who don't know, but we had a customer once who she has function once a year maybe, and she's a vegetarian that doesn't eat eggs. No, she doesn't like eggs, sorry, and she's gluten-free. Oh, yeah. So I'm like, what does this person eat?
Well, I was at a barbecue once, and so we're at a barbecue, so a lot of burgers, stuff like that, and there was a gluten-free vegan. So she literally had salad, and she couldn't have the salad because the salad had some sort of dressing in that was bad. Yeah. So she had like lettuce with some salsa.
Yeah, she's a rabbit.
And I was just like,
she's a rabbit.
I couldn't think like what she ate apart from like lettuce.
So moving on, this is something where we wanted to talk about what we get asked more regular day to day. So Ed's going to address the first issue, and then I'll address the second. Going back to game changers, people will ultimately find this a new thing that they've found, and it works for them.
But I think because based on my kind of social media, from what I've seen on social media, people will watch it and then say, "Oh my God, this is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. I need to stop eating meat straight away."
Mm-hmm. They don't think about the repercussions.
They've not thought about everything else. They've not thought about, well, who's made this documentary? Why are they trying to push this?
So Ed's going to talk about fad diets, and first of all, what the biggest fads that you've heard of?
Well, so obviously we've spoke about vegetarian and vegans.
It's going to be a lifestyle.
It's a bit controversial.
I'm
calling them, classing them in fads, but however, it is quite popular at the minute to be vegetarian, to be vegan. So I feel like some people are doing it because their friends are doing it, maybe for a proper reason, like they can't eat meat or something like that, and then they're doing it because they've obviously lost some weight whilst they've done it. So they think, oh, I'll do this and lose weight as well, be healthy. And then in reality, like I said, if you're not talented at cooking and be able to be creative with making different meals, you're not going to be able to sustain it because you'll be craving something that's got a bit more flavour.
I think some of these fads is definitely that's got in mind that they make it easy.
Yeah.
Make it really easy. So like, I know Ed's going to mention it, but the 5-2 makes it easy. You just eat less, which again we'll come on to, which is also controversial.
And then the keto diet as well. A lot of people, when they read online what you need to do to go ketogenic. Okay, so eat no carbs and eat loads of fat.
No fructose.
So they read. There's like a list of foods that you're allowed, a list of foods you're not allowed. So obviously people are thinking, oh, I'm not allowed carbs, but then it says in your good list it's like bacon, cheese, beef, and they're like, oh, this sounds actually really good. Yeah. So then they do it, and obviously because you're literally all your calories are coming from like fatty meat sources. You've automatically by taking potatoes off of your plate, you've already cut your calories right down. 100%, but that's what people don't get. They think, oh, I'm going into a state of ketosis and I'm burning fat all the time.
Yeah, well, I try and help people with that diet. I say, what is your vice? Like, what's your thing? Is your thing bread? Like, cut out bread, you'll lose weight. 100%. So that's ultimately what the game changers goes down to as well. If you cut a major food group out of your diet, you will lose weight. 100%.
If you eat well, but then want to lose weight, but you drink a lot, stop drinking, you lose weight. Same thing.
We've mentioned keto and some of its things. Like
keto, I do. It is good, but I think it's only a short-term thing.
Yeah.
Because the transition from being a carbohydrate-fueled person to a more of a fat-fueled person. Yeah. It has a period of time where, because your body's constantly searching for carbs, because obviously carbs are easier to break down and turn into energy than fat is, so it's constantly looking for that easy fix. I need to get energy.
Path of least resistance.
Yeah, so that's always what it's looking to do. So when you starve it of carbs for a certain period of time, you are going to feel absolutely rubbish. You're going to be lethargic. You're going to be tired. You're going to be grouchy. If you get hangry, and you're doing keto, that is going to be hell.
Just don't do it.
So, but then once you get through that, you do feel better because obviously your body's used to dealing with that fat source in your body, and I think that it does work. But like I said, it's not sustainable. So as soon as I started going back to rugby training, I piled in. I was just tired all the time. I was mardy all the time. I didn't have enough energy. I just felt like really tired. So then I started eating carbs again, and I felt fine.
That brings us nicely on to the next one, which about feeling rubbish and being hangry is the 5-2, and 5-2 makes you lose weight. 100% you will lose weight, but the worst thing about it, in my opinion, is the sustainability. If you keep doing it week on week on week, you're probably going to end up in an eating disorder.
Yep.
It's not the best way to do it. And now or should I say intermittent fasting, which is the same as what 5-2 does. Now it works, 100% it works, but I've written an example down here for us to talk about is Ramadan.
Yeah.
So people who do Ramadan is essentially a way of intermittent fasting. But do they lose weight every single time? No. They're sensible with it so that they eat enough calories during nighttime hours that when the sun comes up again, they've got enough stores to replace. We have our squash coach here. He's from Pakistan, and he weighed himself every day to make sure that he wasn't losing weight, and so that he could still effectively play and coach squash. Because if not, he's going to have a massive crash or a hypo, we call it in the sports world, and then he's not going to be able to function. He's not going to be able to coach effectively. He's not going to play effectively. So, and that's the big thing for athletes, because if they come over from a Muslim country to play football in the Premiership, let's say, they've got to time their food so that they're going to train as normal. Yeah. They've got to train like a normal athlete.
For the athletes that do like fast and like doing Ramadan, and they still manage to like get through it. And
huge respect. Huge respect.
I don't know. Honestly, I go like 2 hours without food, and I'm hated by everyone.
And the last one we've got here is the type of meat. So cutting red meat or.
There's a big thing. There was a big thing in the news not that long ago.
Causes cancer.
Red meat causes cancer. I think that was the headline. But then when you delve into the study that they were quoting, it said that it can cause cancer due to the amount of carcinogens in it. This is what the health documentary spoke about a lot. It was it was basically saying, this one went as far as saying that red meat causes cancer, but then so does white meat. So chicken has carcinogens in as well.
On a packet of paracetamols, it says it can kill.
Yeah. Some people get really hit up on the diet and they think, oh, I've had a donut, that's it, I'm going to be really fat now.
Yeah.
But I think I've had a donut, I'm probably not going to have a donut for the rest of the week, so it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I eat red meat, I eat fish, I eat vegetables, and I just think if you eat too much of anything, it's going to be bad for you.
Yeah.
But if you eat a balanced amount of everything, it's going to be fine.
That brings us on to the next thing: is when should you be eating and what really. So we get asked this all the time as well, and the biggest thing really is about, should you eat little and often or 3 square meals? Well, for instance, it doesn't really matter either way as long as you keep calories the same. Okay, so for instance, I prefer to eat little and often, roughly every 2 hours, because it suits me better, especially around our working schedule. But if you get set breaks, then eat 3 square meals, but they must be bigger meals. So when you look at food groups, you need to have a greater amount, there or thereabouts, of the slow releasing foods and a smaller amount of the fast releasing foods, because those fast releasing foods are going to be gone almost immediately.
Like instant spike.
And then they're gone. So you need then that store to keep you sustained throughout the day, particularly when you're eating 3 meals a day. So if your plate doesn't look like the Eat Well plate for breakfast, how can we do this? So I went to a lecture, it was in Leeds Beckett University, and I believe the guest speaker was from the University of Limerick, and I apologise because I can't remember his name, but it made me think. And they did a study on protein ingestion for muscle growth, repair and sustainability. So they showed that 20 grams of protein with 3 grams of leucine, 3 times...
Leucine is a type of amino acid, for those who don't know.
3 times a day provides you with the muscle sustain that you need, and particularly growth. So leucine is as I'd said, branched chain amino acid that helps repair and build on muscles. So they did it on a non-human, so they did it at cellular level, but that's where most medical studies start. So what that means in real life is that if breakfast, how am I going to get 20 grams of protein? Now that is quite difficult, but if you look at yogurt, so 150 grams of Greek yogurt should be there or thereabouts getting what you need. Then if I look to lunch, if you're having a chicken breast, now generally most people get all their calorie or most of their calorie requirements in their evening meal. So trying to split that through the
day. Bigger throughout the day, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So trying to split that through the day is the difficult thing. So now, when you try and fix your diet after this, because we've given you all the tools too, is try and add dairy-based protein throughout the day. So if you're having dairy-based protein like milk or
milk's
a good one, but you've got to have quite a lot. So it's like a pint or half a pint of semi-skimmed milk in the morning. Or yogurt then, or like I said, 150 grams of Greek yogurt. that will greater increase your slow release energy throughout the day. So you've got to think that if you're having breakfast cereal, the only really good nutrients you're getting from that is the milk. Now,
could argue fibre.
Some of them, yeah. Try and increase your protein requirements through the day, but that does cause other issues, which brings us on to our last segment of the nutrition, which is the bro science baffler. And we love this bro science, and like we love bashing it and critiquing it, but there is some good that comes out. So in the bro science baffler, we're gonna cover a couple of things that in nutrition that we're gonna try and debunk or provide some science to it. Is amount of protein intake. You go to anywhere now, the shop, the supermarket, the garage, it has some product that is boasting about its amount of protein that it has in it. And
it does my head in though, because some of them think they've got protein splashed all over them. And then you look at one serving and it's got like 6 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at that to be your protein source for your snack or your thing, it's not. You're gonna have to have like 3. But then if you add the calories up, it's probably not a snack.
Yeah, it's not a snack. It's like you're getting the same calorie as a meal, and you're not getting all the nutrient. As an everyday person, you are there or thereabouts only going to be able to ingest 30 grams of protein per meal.
Yeah.
So 3 times a day, there or thereabouts. And then if you're sedentary, which means you don't train or whatever, you're probably only going to be closer to 20 grams 3 times a day.
But there is a lot of variables that do affect this.
It's huge. It's massive.
So you see, if you go into a protein shop, you'll see there's like a lean blend which has got 20 grams in, which is like probably pink because they're trying to get women to buy it. Yeah. And then there's a big horrible green tub in the corner that's got some
intense.
Yeah, it's got like
extreme.
It's called extreme or something like that. It's got a bloke with his guns out on it, and it's
100%.
Yeah, and it's like it says like massive 60 grams of protein.
Yeah.
And then now you're listening to us and you're hearing us go, well, why do we need 60 grams of protein per serving? Well, so if you're one of the blokes who's on the box and you've got that much muscle mass, you probably will be able to ingest up to 50 grams potentially, depending on how big you are. Obviously, if you're 5'5" and stacked, you will probably not be up there. But then if you're 6'10", if you're the mountain, deadlifting 1,000 kilos, you probably will be having 70 grams.
I know we could go into loads more science about it, but realistically, if you're having more than 30 grams, and unless you're a professional athlete or, as I said, with a huge amount of muscle mass, if you're ingesting more than 30 grams in one serving, you're just getting really expensive whey. So enough about protein. The next one, no carbs before marbs. Now this is a huge one with social media at the minute, and it's big with females especially. If you cut carbs, it goes back to what we said, you will lose weight. You're cutting a major part of your diet out. But for you to do that for a short amount of time, let's say 6 weeks before you go on holiday, before you go away, you then, as soon as you touch carbohydrate, when you go away, your body is going to go into overload mode, because it's not had it for 6 weeks. It's going to try and take it all and keep it all. So then that's when people say, I think I'm gluten-free because I'm getting bloated from bread. And, well, no, if you just moderated your bread, you wouldn't get bloated, because your body's trying to store it and keep it as much as it can. Now, there will be exceptions again, but
that's another fad, I think, being gluten-free.
Yeah, gluten-free.
But actually not being gluten-free.
And the last one is cheat meals. Now, we're going to be very quick on this. Ed's got 1 point and I've got 1 point. So, cheat meals.
Think about it. So if you eat 1,000 calories a day, because your maintenance is like 1,500. Let's say you're quite a small person.
Mm-hmm.
You eat 1,000 calories, which is 500 calorie deficit every day. So then your total calories for the week should be 7,000. Yeah. So let's say you have 6 good days and then 1 bad day. So on your good days, you have 1,000 calories each day, so you're on 6,000 calories. But then on your cheat day, you have like 4,000.
Yeah.
You're then on 10,000 calories for the week instead of your 7, which means you're 3,000 calories above your target.
Agreed. So, and your body's only going to store that extra.
Exactly. So
my only point on cheat meals is go on YouTube, type in Brian Butterfield's diet plan. All that needs to be done. When you've watched it, comment below, tell me what you think. He the comedian Peter Serafinowicz is a genius with that, and it was years before cheat meals became such a fad. So go watch it, and it'll highlight all the things that are wrong with cheat meals. Okay, so we've reached the last part of our podcast, which we've aptly named The Finish Line. So, in conclusion to the nutrition, my opinion is that I say this a lot to customers: if you eat sensibly, move more, and be patient, you will lose weight. But ultimately, Ed and I both agree that if you put less in your mouth, you will lose weight.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Put less in, you will lose weight. Okay? And I know that's not what people want to hear, but if you put less in your mouth and you be patient, it will happen. Yeah. Being patient is the hardest thing, but it's the best thing for us to.
If you're patient, you steadily reduce the amount of calories you're in your deficit. So that's underneath. That's the amount of calories under your kind of maintenance target. So everybody has like a metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories they burn without moving.
Yeah.
So as long as you stay under that,
and science says that you should be 500 calories under. Yeah, well, that's safe.
There's no harm in going like 2 weeks with 200 calories under and then increasing it steadily. So as your body gets used to it. Because if you automatically go, right, 6,000 calories, I'm not eating them,
you're gonna feel rubbish.
Your stomach's gonna be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So you just gotta be sensible.
And then any sort of badness you have or cheats you have, your body's gonna store it. Yeah. So it'll grab it and keep a hold of it straight away.
It's just gotta be little changes can add up to big changes in the long run.
And again, be patient. Be patient. Next part of our podcast is to bring us on to the subject for next week. So we're going to play 20 questions. So Ed's got 10 and I've got 10. Normally these are going to be towards the guest, but we're going to quick fire them to each other. So Ed, favourite food?
Mexican. What is the best supplement that you use or have used?
Protein shakes.
What, just whey or?
Yeah, whey. But I mean, I like whey isolate, which is a bit more pure form. But generally, if the company has a fewer amount of products, I think that they've put more time into researching those products.
I'm glad you didn't say like Mass Extreme.
No, yeah. Squats or deadlifts?
Deadlifts. What's your favourite drink?
Favourite drink? Oh, controversial. Mountain Dew. Person or people you would most like to meet? Now, you remember, you could go from history. You could say Jesus.
No, I said something really controversial then. I'm just going to go Rihanna.
Rihanna? Okay,
yeah, she's
cool.
Fit. Favourite type of training?
At the minute, it's probably single arm versus single leg. So in sport, we call it unilateral versus bilateral. I'm like exploring a lot more about how you would work single arm, especially particularly on your non-dominant side. Push or pull in a gym sense?
I thought you were going to say in town. Probably push, but I probably need to do more pull.
Yeah, I think that goes for all rugby players.
Yeah. Everybody loves a bit of bench, hates doing scap raises.
Yeah.
One word to describe keto diet.
Oh, moderation.
Ah, yes. Diplomatic. I like
it. Snow or sand?
Sand.
Sand?
All day. FIFA or Call of Duty?
FIFA. Sport. Favourite superhero?
Thor. I want to look like
God of Thunder. Yeah, that's what the long hair was all about, right?
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Oh, easily 100 duck-sized horses. Imagine what a horse-sized duck looks. That's going to be the most deadly animal in the world.
Once you've only got to fight the one.
Yeah, but
imagine 100 duck-sized horses running at you.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a lot, but I'd like my chances. One horse-sized duck is going to be the deadliest animal on earth.
But it's a duck, unless you're made out of bread.
Okay, best corrective exercise.
It's an open-ended question. For what?
Correcting your exercise.
I don't think it's got a name, but it's a prone scap activation. So where you lay on your front
and raise your shoulders, hands
swimming.
So it's like a sort of swimming exercise on the floor.
Because my shoulders are made out of plastic.
Yep.
If you got 3 dinner party guests, who are they?
Oh, I said it now. I'm gonna have to do one. I would say Jesus.
Jesus.
Put Jesus in there. I'm gonna say Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Jones.
Eddie Jones. Strong.
Rehab or prehab?
Prehab. Nobody ever wants to be injured.
Yeah.
So I'd rather prevent injury than be injured. What area does everybody need to train more of that nobody does train?
Oh, you nearly hit the nail on the head with pull. I think all over body pull generally is people's weakness, but I'm going to go with what I said earlier on the non-dominant single arm or leg on the non-dominant side.
Interesting.
Your favourite de-stressing technique?
I have 2.
Okay.
Depending on my type of day.
Yeah.
I like playing a bit of FIFA.
Yeah.
It's quite therapeutic. But then also beating the hell out of the boxing bag in a horrible cardio session is pretty therapeutic.
Yeah.
For me. This one could be controversial. Just remember, we know some of these people. One word to describe vegans:
weak. Last one from me. Favourite injury tool or piece of equipment? Injury rehab.
Broom handle.
Broom handle. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
I love a good broom handle.
More than you would ever think. We use that in the gym.
That is my best mobility tool.
Yeah, definitely. After you avoided the trap by not saying foam roller.
Or Theragun.
Yeah, Theragun. That's whole other podcast again.
Who's your dream training partner?
There's loads of rugby players I can think of, but I've got to go with the main man, Arnie. I'd love to train with Arnie.
I thought you were going to say The Rock.
No, not The Rock. Arnie, he's the original. He's the trainer.
Yes.
Brings us to the last bit. So if you want to find out any more about us or about what we do, please visit accelerate-coaching.com or find us on Facebook at Accelerate Coaching or Instagram at Accelerate_coaching. Send any questions in that you have, or if you'd like to hear more from us, come train with us, speak to us, whatever you would like. You can find me on Instagram at Bish1990 and Ed at EdDMMiles on Instagram. We're going to have a poll for 2 weeks' time in a 3rd episode of podcast on what subject you'd like to hear from. Find us on Instagram and Facebook to hear what you want to hear about next. From Accelerate Coaching, signing off.